Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. The person beside you, your partner, your soulmate, the one you've built a life with, isn't them anymore. Their face is the same. Their voice echoes with familiarity. Every wrinkle, every laugh line, every memory they recount. It's all there. But deep down, something's wrong. A chill you can't shake. A whisper in your mind screaming that this person is an imposter. This isn't a horror movie script. It's not a campfire tale. For those gripped by Capgras delusion, it's a living nightmare, a psychological abyss where love turns to suspicion and trust becomes a weapon. History is littered with cases of people convinced their partners were replaced by perfect duplicates. Not twins, not lookalikes, imposters wearing their skin. Today, we're plunging into this twisted reality. We'll uncover real stories, some ending in violence, where love unraveled into terror. Are these imposters extraterrestrial infiltrators, folklore's shapeshifters reborn, or is the truth locked inside the human mind, more horrifying than any myth? It began in 1923 with a French psychiatrist named Joseph Capgras. His patient, Madame M, was a 53-year-old woman unraveling before his eyes. She swore her husband wasn't her husband, but a revolving cast of identical imposters, swapping places like actors in a sick play. She couldn't explain it. He looked like her husband, even sounded like him, but she felt nothing. His essence was gone. She lived in constant dread, certain he'd been stolen away. Fast forward to 1989. A man, we'll call him John, survived a brutal car crash, only to awaken to a stranger in his wife's body. John recognized her face. Every detail flawless, but in person, she was a fraud. Over the phone, her voice brought relief. She was his wife again. The second he saw her, the imposter returned. One night, he just snapped. Convinced she was a threat, John grabbed a knife and held it to her throat, demanding his real wife back. She escaped, barely. In that same year, another chilling case emerged. A woman, we'll call her Sarah, believed her husband of decades was an imposter after his minor stroke. She set up cameras, interrogated him about their past. He answered perfectly. Every anniversary, every secret. It didn't matter. She saw a monster in his skin. Then, one night, she attacked. Armed with scissors, she lunged, screaming that he'd stolen her husband's memories. He survived, but their 40-year marriage didn't. Perhaps the most tragic of cases was a man named Michael. Michael's wife noticed his growing paranoia. He'd stare at her, muttering about the replacement. Then, one evening, he snapped. He struck her with an axe, convinced she was a duplicate hiding his true love. She lived, scarred forever. Michael later told police he had to save her, to force the imposter to confess. In 2004, a Canadian case turned deadly. Daniel, a man with schizophrenia, became obsessed with the idea his partner was a clone. He'd rant about her wrong energy. One night, fueled by delusion, he stabbed her repeatedly, believing he'd unmask the fraud. Sadly, she didn't survive. These aren't just stories. They're windows into a fractured mind, where love twists into terror, and recognition betrays reality. So what is it that's creating this terrifying reality in these cases? Neuroscientists point to a glitch, a severed wire between the brain's visual recognition and its emotional core. Normally, seeing a loved one triggers two signals. I know you, and I feel you. In Capgras, the first works fine. They see the face perfectly. But the second, dead silence. The brain panics. This looks like my partner, but I feel nothing. It can't be them. And so, the imposter is born. Studies show damage often hits the right hemisphere, where facial recognition and emotion collide. Traumatic brain injuries, strokes, schizophrenia, even dementia, they can all flip the switch. And here's the kicker. It's usually the people they love most. Strangers don't spark the same emotional void, so they don't get replaced. That's why John knew his wife over the phone. Sound bypassed the broken visual link. But face to face, a stranger stared back. It's a wiring fault, sure, but it's also a crack in everything we trust about reality. Before science had a name for this, humans spun tales to fill the void. The Navajo skinwalker, a witch who steals faces to deceive. Europe's doppelgangers, harbingers of doom wearing your lover's smile. Were these myths born from Capgras minds, desperate to explain the unexplainable? Today, some whisper of alien replacements, clones slipped into our lives. Others see glitches in the matrix, parallel worlds bleeding through. Online, believers trade stories, partners with wrong vibes, habits that don't fit. Proof, they say, of something sinister. But here's the twist. People do change. Trauma, illness, time. They can hollow out someone you love, leaving a stranger behind. Maybe the line between delusion and truth isn't so clear. So, what is Capgras delusion? A brain misfire? A glimpse into how fragile our grip on reality is? Or something darker, lurking just out of sight? Science says it's a disconnect, a cold, clinical break. But that doesn't erase the terror of living it. The real horror isn't aliens or shapeshifters. It's how much we rely on invisible bonds. Emotions we can't touch, but feel every day. When those bonds snap, by injury, illness, or drift, it's like staring at a mask, a stranger in the shell of someone you'd die for. Tonight, hold the ones you love close. Not because they're imposters, but because that connection, that spark, is a miracle we rarely notice until it's gone. If you liked that, then you're gonna love these.